Coming to you live from the Stream.tv studios in Hollywood, California, Pensado's Place is brought to you by Vintage King, the Blackbird Academy, Avid, Recording Connection, Studio 202, Slate Media Technologies and Slate Digital, and Audio Technica.
From Beck to Trent Reznor, our guest has seen and done it all. You're going to love him. We got a brand new ITL. We got information updates. We got lots of stuff, which is why you come to the place, which means you're at the place. It's Pensado's Place.
Yay! Welcome to the greatest 60 seconds in audio.
60 seconds, so the show's over right about now.
Welcome to the... heck, you know where you're at. Hey, man, I was going to throw Herb off, but I threw myself off instead. That was pretty cool. I like it. I made myself laugh. That's good. Great show today. I can't wait to talk to our guests. How's your week going so far?
Good.
60 seconds.
Crazy. You know how crazy it is. And for all good reasons and, you know, challenges and stuff that we do. And yours too as well, correct? You're busy, sir.
I wasn't paying attention. What'd you say?
You're busy.
Oh, yeah.
We're off to a rolling start here. Why don't we get into the meat of the show? The improv part's not working that well. Shall we?
I haven't said this in a while, but I have medical excuses.
Okay, but I don't. So I better get
sometimes,
to
don't you?
Yeah, I better get to reading some things. How about that?
Let's do it.
Hey there, everybody. How the heck are you? Great to be hanging with each and every one of you. Let's get this party going. Literally fabulous guest this week. You will meet him in just a bit, but when I spoke to him earlier, I was telling him how much our staff responded when you got
Will.
Will, Mr. No Emotion, Mr. 1 and 0 digital bits. It was amazing, his reaction. So, anyways, it's
Will's got great taste in music, though.
You're
learn a lot from him.
You're going to enjoy Justin Meldal-Johnsen. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Quick shout out to Ashley Donald. That's one of our viewers at the great Howard University in Washington, D.C. Right. By happenstance, I ended up chatting with her this morning. Advice to you, Ashley, and anybody else who gets the opportunity. Keep hanging with Ron Dixon. Ron and Studio 202 in D.C. are the real deal, believe that.
Ron's that guy.
You're in good hands. Your likes and subscribes are part of our jet fuel. We are bearing down on that 100,000 mark. Thanks to all of you for keeping us moving and grooving. It's most appreciated by this guy to my right and myself. True. Big deal. Our Vintage King partners are deep in planning stages with us for Gear Expo Nashville. Mark your calendar for Saturday, September 27th. We will roll out all the details next week, but just mark your calendar. Chad and Chevy and JVD and Tom, all Vintage King folks, are grinding away with us. We're really excited about that. Heavily involved in Gear Expo is our Blackbird family. Both the Academy and the studio are, they're committed to excellence all the time. They're going to trot out some very big guns and provide that for us, and then we're going to move forward with some tricks and surprises that we usually do. So cool things for you there, and we are looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Also, on that Blackbird front, a couple other things. We've been telling you for a while about the Blackbird and Slate union. The reason we're being careful with it is because they're so careful. Mm-hmm. They're dotting I's and crossing T's as they prepare to roll out everything they're doing. Now, I heard from a little birdie, that would be a blackbirdie,
oh my gosh,
that they may come on our show and announce. And I think that's going to happen in a couple of weeks. So we'll let you know those exact dates. I know Dave and I are really excited because we have some awareness of what they're doing. These are two entities who deliver literally at the highest level. So it should be pretty cool when that happens. One last thing about Blackbird and our man DP right here. Blackbird Studio has a program called the Blackbird Sessions, where a giant or a legend or somebody that we all admire and respect, they come in for a 5-day intensive, hands-on, in-studio, deep dive. Our man Dave is the master guest for the Blackbird session that's coming up at the end of September. The exact dates for that are September 29th through October 3rd. The fit is Gear Expo on Saturday the 27th. And then the Blackbird session featuring Dave starts that Monday and runs for a week. They're two completely separate things, but both pretty cool things. For information on the Blackbird session, on pricing and all those details, email karma@theblackbirdacademy.com. That's karma@theblackbirdacademy.com, CARMA, and you can figure that out. So, you know, there's some cost involved in other things. It's 5 days, you're in Nashville, and Dave's gonna do his thing. Yep.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Audio Technica is on board in the house. We love using their stuff. You will see their mics and stuff in our hot little hands at all these upcoming appearances. I actually had on their cans this morning as I was working and doing all these notes.
I wish I had some.
I do all my playing with the Audio Technica. You don't have any? Oh, that's right. Somebody got you.
Somebody borrowed mine and never gave them back.
Borrowed is a loose term. So we're going to get
man,
that.
I got to say, when I had them, they were spectacular.
Exactly. Well, we're going to correct it for you post-haste by next week.
Don't tease me, Herb. Don't tease me. You know I love me some Audio Technica.
No question. And also great people. It's
Yeah.
the people behind it, really important. Hello to our avid friends. Very helpful last week with Dave and some stuff, getting things worked out.
This week, yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Jim was a godsend, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and that,
I filled out my Vintage King little form, my Avid form they send you to rate everything. It's like spectacular, spectacular, spectacular. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is easy. Then I got to tell why.
ooh,
So I spent 2 hours because I wanted him to get
the full
benefit.
Dave.
I mean, he spent some, I tell you what, it changed my attitude towards a lot of things because I never call those people when I'm happy.
That's true. I was just going to say, I've been there when it's not working and you're not necessarily that happy then.
And,
but this one you were pretty calm
He
about.
calmed me down, got me working, and was very patient.
They did a great
and
job.
the things that were required to fix what had happened were not quick things. So you have to wait for the computer to reboot. You have to wait for things and wait and wait and wait. And we spent about, I'm guessing, 3 hours, and he never got impatient.
Good job, Avid.
Good to him. Way to go, Jim.
And also, finally, shout out to our Recording Connection folks. One-on-one teaching, learning where you live, a really cool alternative. If you watch your budgets and want to not move around, check out Recording Connection. Alrighty, David P., what do you have up your ITL sleeve this week?
Man, I've really been digging the series we're doing with John McBride on some of his microphones in his collection, so we're going to continue that for you.
Hello, my name is John McBride, and I'm sitting in the A room at Blackbird Studios, along with some of my favorite microphones, and that's what we're going to talk about today, microphones. The Telefunken 251 is one of the good guy mics, a mic that is so versatile and sounds so incredible. You can use it in almost any situation recording. Female vocalists, the great ones, have used Telefunken 251s, I'm sure, most of their career. Singers like Barbra Streisand, Celine Dion, Martina, my wife, she uses a 251. Serial number 584, which in my opinion is probably the greatest sounding 251 I've ever heard. We have about 25 251s here at Blackbird. We really, really love these microphones. One of its main competitors, or a very similar mic, is an AKG C12. The 251 and the C12 use the same capsule, the CK12 capsule, and they also both use a 6072 tube. Another cool thing about the 251, it rolls off at about 100 cycles. The low end starts to roll off at 100 and below. The C12 and the 251 were big time competitors with each other, and while they're very similar, they weren't the same exactly. The main differences were the Telefunken 251 is slightly larger than a C12 in girth anyway. It has a different type grill material. I think the amplifier circuit is slightly different also. And one of the cool things about the 251 is they flip the tube so that there's a shorter distance between the capsule and the tube. Another thing is the 251 has a pattern selector built into the mic, cardioid, omni, and figure of 8. The 251 could be my favorite all-time mic. I know that we did a record here for the Mavericks, and Nico Bolas engineered it, and he used all 251s in that recording, and it's one of the greatest sounding records I've ever heard. The 251 is also great on acoustic guitar, It's great as a room mic. It's great on overheads, on a drum kit. It's great in just about anything you want it to do. It'll handle it. It's a great microphone. So, I hope you get to use them, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Take care.
The reaction to our guests from our staff,
Including me.
Including you, and me too, because their reaction was that way, was the most fun part. And I don't know if this ever happened in however many episodes we've done. Justin Meldal,
321.
that's what it is. Justin Meldal-Johnsen is here, and I will tell you that our team had the biggest reaction to him being there, and we are thrilled to have you at the desk, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so
What
much.
A lot
pleasure.
to live up to.
No. For Dave and I, that's what there was a lot to live up for.
Thanks, sir.
Fire away, sir.
I'm going to jump right in, Justin.
Yeah.
You do several things really well, among them as a live performer on the bass, and then as a producer. And in that capacity, you do some studio work on the bass. Can you describe the differences in your approach to working live with the bass, like performing with 9 Inch Nails or Beck? You just got back yesterday from tour.
Nice.
Late night with Beck.
Nice.
You just flew in from New York. What's your? Do you have a different mindset
Yeah.
towards the live world as opposed to the studio
Yeah,
world?
very much.
These are my Tom Brokaw hand gestures that I'm incorporating into
right,
the.
Right. Yeah, I do, and it's made itself apparent over time. But I know that when I'm in the studio, I'm definitely of the pure servitude mindset. Like I'm, trying to be as egoless as possible and trying to be as, song aware as possible. Those kinds of things. I think live for me is when the real passion of music comes forward. You don't
have to hold back.
I don't have to hold back, and rehearsal has happened,
Yes.
and sound check has happened, and we're here, and you're
Structures in place.
Yeah. So there's a thing where you feel all of a sudden like you are free from limitations, and you can be a performer. And I don't know where it comes from exactly in my past or in my musical education or whatever, but performing music is the thing for me that has been the most immediately satisfying part of making music.
Wow.
So performing live is something I intend to do until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So they come from different places, and I have this sort of thing. I mean, I'm sure you guys can relate to this, where I have to be able to vacillate between these different disciplines.
Preach,
often.
brother, preach.
Do you know what I mean?
Completely. We live
Okay.
it. We live it.
I feel compelled to exercise my right to do that.
Yep.
Now, whether or not doing that in session bass playing, being a live performer, and being a producer, whether or not doing all three of those things in odd measures each year or whatever is financially viable, a smart move, and all that is kind of, at the age of 44 now, I'm very clear on the fact that I don't really care.
Right.
I need them all.
Exactly.
It's a requirement for living.
It's important.
Somehow
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, it's part of your life force.
Yeah, really.
I understand.
So I hope that answers the question.
It did quite spectacularly.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to talkbass.com. You've got a forum on there,
Yeah.
and I decided kind of behind the scenes a little bit of a groundswell to have you here. So, but the guys on the forum were great in helping me getting you here.
Oh,
they didn't
cool.
help me at all, but they really wanted you. But I don't even know why I brought that up. But you should go check this out, and I'm telling you why. He shares a lot of stuff there and on his website, but we're going to break it down a little bit for you guys slightly differently. In the studio, do you go smaller? Like, what's your typical setup in the studio when you're recording bass as opposed to a live stage?
Yeah.
Do you go bigger on the stage?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've never seen you use an SVT 810 cabinet. Why do you hate those? But we'll do that again.
It's like that's a leading question, you know, like
Your Honor.
why do you
Strike that?
Yeah, exactly.
I promised him one zinger. I mean, you know.
I love it. I love it.
But explain to me, because as a guitar player, I've done both.
Yeah.
And I like going small in the studio.
Right.
Is it the same for bass players?
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's become a thing where I have a small collection of B15s, which is my go-to.
Little flip top.
And I like I'm partial to the early 70s B15s. There's something about this era that they were a little louder. They had a little more heft on the low lows,
Yeah.
and I think they record great, and I feel real comfortable playing
They have
them.
a different speaker too.
They do, yeah. They have a CTS speaker, I believe, or
I
something.
can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was better, but it just sounded better. It might have been less expensive, but it sure sounded good.
Yeah, but I'm partial to those.
And then live?
Well, live, it's a different story. Like it depends on who I'm performing with, because with Nine Inch Nails I used a very big sort of modern bass rig, which had a lot of signal processing in the flow, but then finally at the speaker end there was two big Aguilar cabinets, a 4x12 and an 8x10, like pushing a lot of air. But with Beck, you know, I have a long history with him, 18 years now, and the thing with him that I've learned to appreciate is his love for very vintage tones. And I've fallen in love with lately acoustic bass amps from the 70s. You know, the Jocko used
That's all
to play.
transistor.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's
I picked you more for a custom with the black pleated tucked and roll
Tuck and roll,
covering
yeah.
with the 4 Buick ports in the front.
that was one of my first amps. But,
you
yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I wish I still had it. But I have found that that for what I'm doing live right now, I'm blending a 2x15 cabinet with this solid state acoustic head and an old 6970 Blue Line SVT rig. So those are sitting side by side at a low volume, creating this luxurious, perfect sound for me.
Wow.
The acoustic is all this old 15s that have this upper mid-range point to them and a lot of note and presence, surprisingly. And the SVT is this cushy, thick, you know, creamy tube thing.
Did you use the acoustic at all on the new Paramore record? It sounds like it's a couple of songs that have it on there, but you didn't.
No, I used a bunch of other stuff, yeah,
Like
on
what?
that. Well, there's another amp that I've fallen in love with for recording, which is an amp that Fender makes, or rather did make, and it doesn't make any longer. It's this, it's a solid state combo with a 15 called a Bassman, and it's not like a real Bassman. It's like their sort of evolution of what they think a Bassman might be. And it's a total secret weapon, not so secret anymore, but I'm telling you, that recorded sound has so much point and presence and note in it. And then I was blending that with my SVT rig and a bunch of other stuff, big
What
stuff.
cabinet did you use with SVT rig?
I used just several. It was song dependent. I had gone through all kinds of different stuff: an Ashdown 810, an Ampeg 8x10, some 15s, some smaller 15s, EV 15s, things like that, and sometimes 3 amps at a time. I spent a lot of time on the bass on every song in that
And the
record,
song
so.
and production dictate what you use.
Yeah,
Is that-
I had no preciousness about it at all.
Right.
It wasn't. There was never a routine. It was
Right.
just like, you know, we were always in Kid in the Candy Store mode when a song was up and time to get cut, and we were just like, well, we think this might be the combo, but we don't know, and oftentimes
right.
we're quite far off the mark.
Right, right,
Which is
right.
kind of a pleasure to be far off the
yeah.
mark.
I like
So
discovering
divine
those
your
guys.
way to the
Yeah,
answer.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The word on the street is that you've got the largest collection of pedals of any human being on earth. And somebody should go, you guys should go look on, I think, where's that picture of your pedal boards that starts like this? I think it's either on the forum or either on your website.
Yeah,
you gotta check
maybe.
this out, guys.
Yeah.
It's like obscene. But describe, because I came to pedals on guitar very, very, very late in my career. I was
Okay.
a purist until probably 20 years into my guitar playing. How did you come to pedals and describe your use and why and give us a couple of good ones.
It comes with aspirations to recreate sounds from my favorite records, and not necessarily being sounds that a bass player would make. So
Can you give an example?
Yeah, Brian Eno with Roxy Music.
Oh,
Graham Lewis, the very innovative bass player from the UK post-punk band Wire. Peter Hook from New Order. Like a lot of the post-punk stuff, big deal for me. Yeah.
Joy Division 2.
Joy Division 2.
I read that you like both those. I love both those.
Yeah, so things like that, and so that's coming from the bass player side, but then Brian Eno from the sort of like, you know, him on the old EMS synthy. You see YouTube videos of Roxy playing in the old days, and he's wearing his full glam attire, and he's rocking the EMS synthy with the Battleship little patch bay thing and the joysticks, and saw things like that early on, and that blew my mind. And I thought, well, there's pedals now that you can buy that can do this. And you know, I ran into the usual resistance that you would expect. Sure. Like, well, you can't use it on their bass. They're not meant for bass. And like in the late '80s, when I first started collecting pedals, that was very much sort of a taboo.
I was trying to remember the bass back then. It was like a DOD, the envelope, the green one, the 25. That was about the only one I remember.
Yeah, there were very few like bass-specific pedals, but frankly I shy away from bass-specific pedals mostly. Oh, okay. I don't necessarily gravitate to that stuff at all.
So the other thing is to allow you to innovate and come up with things.
Yeah, I tend to have aspirations that and I use them in circumstances in recording sessions, but I have to edit myself because I do realize that oftentimes my function is just to play Route 5 and hang out, you know. Right. But when I can, I'm always trying to sneak that stuff in. Like frankly, with a few producers and engineers that you've had on this show in the past, people like Neil Avron and Joe Ciccarelli and Ken Andrews and Tony Hoffer and all these various people, you know,
important to Tony was one of your early mentors.
Well, we came up together. Yeah, Tony and I came up together and had a band together here in LA in the 80s.
Oh, cool. He's one of our favorites.
Yeah, he's great. So these people, for instance, were people that gave me that latitude to sometimes like use it on records. Yeah. And then there's a film composer named Tyler Bates, great guy, who does a lot of interesting scores, who lets me do that strictly as a sound design thing. Oh, really? He'll have me do bass, and then he'll have me do sometimes strictly atmospheres created by pedals and a bass that have no relationship to a bass function. So that's kind of nice too.
Can I step into your bailiwick for a second?
Well, yeah, of course.
Thank you.
I step on yours all the time.
And it hurts too. At some point in time, and we'll coordinate all this, your approach to sort of composing for film and utilizing your perspective and sound design, I should say. Can we do an ITL on that?
God, that would give anything.
Which is kind of our deep dive where we sit and you and Dave sit and we sort of.
That's a great idea.
Can we do that?
Let's do it.
Cool.
It's a great idea.
And back to your question.
Good one, Herb.
Yay.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here thinking that one of the reasons I came to pedals late was because the guitar has such a wider color palette, and you play boring bass. On the M83 record, "Hurry Up, We're Dreaming," that's one of my favorite things you've ever done. I love that record. It's an example of so many great things. Your production, your playing, your stamp was all over that. The guitar work you did on that, I didn't know you were that good a guitar player.
Oh, thank you.
It was, that's what made me think about that slight that I just gave you. On guitar, what were some pedals that you used on that record? What a great record.
You know, different flavors of overdrive, like, you know, original Boss OD1s and things like that, but then things like Eventide Space, and actually all those Eventide pedals came in really handy. I've been using
the Black Hole plug-in to mix with, and I love that.
Oh, the Black Hole plug-in, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got to get my hands on that, because usually I'm running in and out of the space all the time, because I'm just so used to that pedal and its functions. So I tend to send signal out to it and then come back in, but I should probably
We'll talk about it after this.
Okay, good.
One of the things about that record that I like the most is I think it's a perfect example of how a producer should and did interact with a client. It was a perfect marriage, Herb. It was like I forget the guy's name. Anthony.
Yeah.
Wanted to do something different, and Justin described it as trying to fly close enough to the sun where you don't get your wings burned.
Yeah, sure.
And and describe your philosophy on how you sat down with Anthony and came up with a concept for creating that record, because I think it's exemplary for our viewers to know the inner machinations of how that trust and that relationship solidified and created this record, which is a great record.
Thank you. It starts out with the reverence of a fan, and me being the fan. So I honestly think that, and this, I don't want this to come off as some sort of false modesty, but this is, I'm speaking purely truthfully here, that like I couldn't have made that record with Anthony without having a very passionate fan relationship with his existing repertoire and everything he had done, and I approached him by writing to him and demanding to be his producer.
No joke.
And that's how I did it. That's how I got that gig, and it turned out he was a fan of mine as well, which I was really surprised at. But we had a lot of mutual respect, and then a simple chemistry of two dudes that we didn't realize we would have until we started, and we get in the room and actually start doing it. And we pretty much wrote the record from the ground up together, and we're always looking for an emotional connection as a reason for doing something. So the production was always informed by like a choice, an emotional choice.
Let me stop you, because it wasn't just a musical emotional choice. Sometimes it was outside influences from other TV shows and everything. Yes, Anthony is a voracious film aficionado, and that was always, and even now, it's still weaving into everything he does. And so I'd find myself being inspired by that and trying to get on the back of that and understand what those motivations and inspirations are. At one point in the record, just as an example of coming at it from an emotional standpoint and having that be the generator of ideas, he has a loft space that we worked in a lot. It had like a 15-foot wall made of cinder blocks. And at one point, when we found ourselves a little, I don't know, overwhelmed by what we had to do coming up, we had a list of songs that we felt were the A-list, and it turned out to be about 30. And each one of those songs, we went down to the craft store and got huge pieces of paper. And each song had we had a working title on the top of the piece of paper, and then on the paper we would lay out inspirational touchstones that relate to the song, such as a piece of prose, a picture cut out of a magazine, even, with a glue stick put on there, the names of movies or records or something that might inform that thing, and this. And they would get added to gradually as time goes on. We made this huge wall. I have a picture of it somewhere, and it's just this collage of almost childlike, I don't know, references or something that were sort of like a guide, like a source material. Yeah, exactly. So things like that were going on during the making of that record. It was very personal venture for both of us.
For those of you so inclined, one of the wonderful things about creativity is when you can open yourself up to that stuff happening. It's a very special gift. There's a lot of successful creative people who can't necessarily open up like that, but when you are able to do that, it's you get informed and inspired and enlightened and warned and all kinds of stuff from things that are you just kind of have to be open to the process. I've kind of had that ability, and I understand it in people, and like you, we get to demonstrate it here and some of the other things we do, and it's like the Emancipation Proclamation. It frees you to go get it and let it come to you, man. And I
agree.
That's a good point, Herb. That creativity without freedom is not creativity.
Absolutely,
is it?
it's not. That's absolutely correct.
So why would you take a cat like him and put limitations?
You're hurting yourself to do that, and you will learn by letting it go. Just Herb, who knows how.
So I just had a thought. You and I were discussing this, and you certainly acknowledged that being on my reference list is a great honor in music.
Of course.
And He's got several songs on my reference list. Among my favorites at the top of the list, you can verify this with Cole, Everybody Talks by Neon Trees. I can't stop listening to that damn song. It's such a great song. How'd that song come about? By the way, congratulations on that record. That's a great record.
Thanks. Yeah, that song has a bit of the kitchen sink production approach. It's very dense, you know.
Well,
there's a lot going on
those
in
guys
there.
are they're very astute.
Yeah, they are.
Political stuff.
Yeah, and it was all about having just a fun spirit within it, and me and the band. Well, just this sort of relates to this thing about M83. I don't think I'm capable of working with someone in a production sense unless I'm actually a real fan. Unless I believe in them wholesale.
I understand that.
And I have a huge emotional investment in what they do.
Yeah.
And so and it doesn't mean that I have to also then become friends with them, but that certainly helps the process. I feel very intimately connected with Neon Trees, for instance, and me and the guys in the band, and Elaine, the drummer, we just have a simpatico that I really was keen to build on. And Everybody Talks is just one of those songs that comes out of them feeling like they wanted to be unrestrained and bust out and be
starting
very,
starting
very
a
free,
rock song
you know?
off with a barbershop quartet lick is genius. I love that.
Anything goes, basically, and that was the MO for that. It was just
And
about
then
being free.
Was it your idea to take the first verse vocal and make it a little radio sound? It's not really a radio sound. It's more like a megaphone sound.
It's just high pass, low pass. Yeah, that's all that's going on, and maybe a little bit of distortion. I think that's all that's going on in there. Yeah.
And then when you repeat it again for like what could be called the bridge, like the re-intro, let's call it
Yes.
that, at around
Let me think.
around 2 minutes in the song is where it repeats. I love that technique where you just kind of start the song over again, and then instead of going to the verse, you went to the hook, which I thought that real cool arrangement. One of your strengths also is arrangement. I love your use of arrangement techniques like that.
I have a lot of fun with that.
It gives it a lot of symmetry. What was in your mind when you took the acoustic guitar on that song and turned it into a percussion instrument as opposed to a harmonic instrument? I thought that was kind of a real cool thing to do. The sound of the pick hitting the strings, Herb, is almost like a Latin percussion instrument as opposed to harmonic notes coming out.
I just like that thought process.
Sometimes I just take all the low end out of it entirely so that it's just more of that. I love the sound of the pick on the strings, and it's sort of like a alternative tambourine. Not as in alternative music, but just an option for that sort of function. And I dig it. I just think that I'm always searching for sources of energy in a production. So I'm always trying to find ways to add that arpeggio or like, what could we do? No, not shaker this time. It's not shaker. It's something else, you know? So that was the rationale behind it, just to create that sort of like bounce, you know, propulsion thing.
You set me up. I love surprises in music because, you know, we've been doing this a while and it's hard to surprise us. And I don't ever want to become jaded about that. But I'm sitting there with my headphones on about a year ago, I guess it's about a year ago, and the chorus comes in and I'm like, oh shit. And my wife goes, what happened? I'm like, the chorus just came in. It was like, how'd you get the guitar? I've asked this question to other producers I admire. One of the things that's hardest about rock guitars is to get them to hit hard but be wide. How'd you get them wide and still powerful?
Well, this might sound, please don't take this as sort of like an irreverent answer, but sometimes you just need to turn down the verse that precedes it.
Bring all the irreverence you have. Absolutely.
Sometimes you need to just bring that previous pre-chorus or verse down. You know? Right, am I right?
You're completely.
Sometimes it's just too loud. But no, more specifically, I have a penchant for always getting a DI clean guitar every time I do a guitar take. And so a lot of times, and a lot of that width that you're speaking of comes from not just like maybe the second layer of it having a different amp voicing, but also
So it's doubled, of course.
It's doubled, but what you have is you have this sort of thing where I strategically tend to take that clean DI, high pass it completely, and put it maybe center or slightly off center, and then pan the other stuff. So, so in other words, it's very it's very.
I wish I was.
Watch for Dave's next 2 mixes.
I think
You're
I
going
can
to hear some moves.
I think I can remember turn them up. Oh, it's hard to turn the verse down. I think I can remember that.
But I really like DI guitars. I really like the idea of using them later for things, not just that thing. That's one function, one thing, and another thing is just to. I have another love for having guitar distortion come from the DI, the clean DI, which is not clean anymore.
Right,
And
are you reamping it?
Yeah,
or,
I'm not
or
well
plugging it, plug-inning it.
20% of the time I'm reamping it. 80% of the time I'm sending it out to like some device, like an overseer saturator or a culture vulture or a plug or something like that, and having that DI because I love the fizz. I love that you can't get that top from anything else. It's a very satisfying thing. I like a lot of harmonic energy and distortion, and so that's a nice touch that I like to capitalize on when I can. You know.
You mentioned Overstayer. That's how I met Justin. Jeff over at Overstayer.
Jeff, yeah.
Introduced us.
Oh, cool.
We're gonna do some stuff with him before it's over.
Sweet.
That technique of the DI. I remember at first, and tell me if you remember this. Tom Schultz, Boston, More Than a Feeling. He was using his own his own Rockman, but on the clean setting as to add back in. I'm pretty sure that was the first time I heard it.
Yeah, right.
On that song, the bass sound is like on all your productions. I never have to hunt for the drums. I never have to hunt for the bass. Your bass sounds are as good as it gets, among other things. Describe what you used on that bass to get it to cut through. Did you use a little color or distortion?
Always.
And a decapitator or SansAmp?
SansAmp, decapitator, overstair, saturator. One of that is usually that, but that's the go-to usually as a second level of adding distortion. Usually I'm trying to hit it right away with pedals and commit to a sound and be done. So it's that's when I bust out all the bins and start opening them up and laying out pedals.
Did you play that bass?
On Everybody Talks?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
I didn't think you did.
That's Brandon Campbell,
yeah,
the very exquisite bass player of that band.
Yeah.
He's excellent.
I love the part.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
And why did you put the hi-hat on the wrong side?
The wrong side, huh?
It should always be from the drummer's perspective. The hi-hat should always be in the left speaker, not the right speaker.
Always, huh?
So you learned, you learned something today.
Well, I feel educated all of a sudden. I'm so glad you
it's my job. It's my
Education
job.
does not mean agreement. It just means
well said. Thank you.
Thanks.
We should get an internet war
against him.
we should get an internet war on bass talk about what side the hi-hat goes on. It's one of the great conundrums in music today.
Of all time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Chicken and egg.
But it's on the left.
It really keeps me up at night.
Me too.
Yes. Glad I have it on the record.
One of the things that I'm running into recently is how to integrate keyboards and guitars in the same world. And I'm not talking about songs like Mumford and Sons. I'm talking about real powerful guitars, and then you got these keyboards, and the keyboards on your productions. I know they're keyboards, but I don't know they're keyboards. I don't know how to describe it. They blend in, but they stand out at the same time. The guitar always wins the battle, Herb, but the keyboards, if you took them out, the song wouldn't be as good.
Well,
how do you do that? Is there a technique or a philosophy?
If I didn't have mixers like Ken Andrews, Tony Hoffer, Billy Bush helping me sort that out, like honestly, my roughs are they're roughs.
Right.
Sometimes they're good, but they're never ideal.
Got it.
And so, sometimes we I have to rely on one of those dudes to do some extraordinarily aggressive EQ and placement. Like it's the kind of EQ curves you see on a plugin that you're like, well, that can't sound good. How's that useful? Notching out some crazy stuff, and there's no information anywhere below 500 or above 2K, so it's just a purely circumstantial thing, I'm a keyboard and synth aficionado. Like if someone said to me now and I didn't play music, what instrument do you want to learn how to play? It'd be that. So, and I out of the world of sound design and out of the types of music that I grew up on and listened to, you know, keyboards are my main love. Bass is almost secondary to that. But so I'm always trying to put that in by force of will on the records that don't necessarily ask for them, and the artists don't necessarily think it's, you know, like with Paramore, for instance, I took liberties to introduce those voices and those textures to the band, and they responded really favorably, and I give them great credit for willing to, you go there.
Killed that new Paramore record. Can I tell her a Paramore story between you and I?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm talking, Tony sends me an email, and I had previously sent him an email saying, are there any songs you're proud of that you'd like to discuss today? And he said, well, Paramore, anything you like, you know? And so I'm spending an hour on Spotify trying to find the song, Anything You Like.
Sure.
So we get down here today, and I'm like, just not, I couldn't find Anything You Like, the Paramore song. And he goes, no, I meant anything you like on the Paramore record. It didn't slow me down. I got a page full of notes on Anything You Like. I was ready just in case.
It's that elusive hidden track.
That is classic. That's perfect.
But I chose Ain't It Fun, which is, I think, the new single.
Can I pose a quick question? Because I was fascinated because as a manager, I did the same thing with Dave and a few others, but primarily Dave. So Billy and Ken and Tony, and that process it being meaningful to you, and as creative as you are, and intuitively creative, sort of experiential creation, which I really admire and aspire to, do you give them the same latitude, or are you on top of them? How does it, like when Billy's doing something and say, you know, I need you to help sort this out, can he go and then come back to you and then you guys shape it, or are you doing that with them?
I generally try and give as few notes as possible at the outset. I mean, I'm really, like, these are guys that I respect so much that I feel inclined to defer to them first.
I know what you mean.
So, you know, I'm sort of entering this producer game over the past, well, earnestly in the past 5 years, but I've done records before that. But as sort of like this wide-eyed child, like, you know, and I'm learning by experience, frankly. And, you know, I need people like that to make choices for me and advise me on things. And I have put a great deal of trust in the mixer, man. I just rely on that. I need it. So when something is not happening, it gets stated. But when someone has a concept and someone has a solution-oriented point of view that I don't need to ride, I'm going to let them fly.
Absolutely.
And I also like just being surprised, frankly. I want to hear their visceral reaction to what I did. And I also respect the fact, not for personal reasons, but because I do it too, that if they say, well, I'm basically hewing fairly close to the rough. And because I also have a philosophy that just because I'm the producer, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm obliged to reinvent the song from the demo. It also means that I need to be clever enough to be able to listen to that demo and find out all the good stuff about it and the initial spark and inspiration that I could easily crush by being self-indulgent.
Absolutely.
So girls don't need a lot of makeup to be pretty.
Sure, exactly.
I don't know where that came from.
That was a nice metaphor. But that relates. But that relates to the mixer thing, because I'm just saying that you know, it relates to trust, and it relates to the thing of you know, backing off when you think that someone else has something that if I help see it through is going to be better than anything that I could think of for this thing. And Ain't It Fun is a good example of that. And that particular song is a good example. There were certain things in the demo, I just brought them in the session.
Right.
Let's break that song down for a second. Yeah. Let me share this with you. My favorite person to mix for is Ron Fair, because Ron won't tell me the snare needs more this 2K or 3K. He'll say the snare needs more Rice Krispies. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? He says more snap, crackle, pop. Or he'll say pimp out the vocal. He won't ever give you specific things. He leaves you latitude. So and if you don't nail it exactly what he wants, he'll tell you what he wants. But he rarely does that early on.
Yeah.
On Ain't It Fun, it's those wide guitars again. Same. You didn't have anything to turn down before them. They were just always wide. So, big boy, how'd you do that?
Well, that's like when the chorus kicks in, you've got a lot of like string synth augmentation going on in there that creates a lot of the width and things like
Excuse me.
Roland Dimension D.
I love the Dimension D. The UAD or the real one?
The real one, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So things like that coming into play that give you spread and maybe a certain amount of spread that you haven't necessarily heard since a record in the mid to late 80s. Like people don't, there's, people like that box and use that box, but it's not super common,
Right.
I use it all the time.
Okay, I use it all the time. I know a lot of mixers like yourself do really enjoy that thing. So I'm trying to actually do it when I'm tracking sometimes, and just put it on there.
Remember we were talking about the 80s earlier today? I heard that box used on C'est La Vie, Robbie Neville. And I think Phil Thornley did that. And it's
a cool track.
One of the first people I met was Robbie when I came to LA. Well, how'd you do that? And he said there was 4 Dimension Ds. I don't know if that's true or not, but the bass on that song here again, classic Johnson bass. It was just, but did you consciously try to give it a 70s hook kind of feel? The bass.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I've got it right.
Bass. That song is all about the bass. Like it's all about that.
It's got a hook,
that punctuated pulsing thing.
It's almost
about
it's a hook.
That with the almost like New Jack swing sensibility going on in there. Like that was very deliberate. And we knew the bass was going to be the thing that carried it, as well as like some of my gratuitous sort of synth stabs that I do in the like those types of things. I love stuff like that.
Played a bad note on that one.
Oh, I did. Sorry.
The vocal. Get the desk too.
I love the vocals on that record. Do you remember the chain that you used to record with? What was that?
It was a Bach 251. So one of David Bach's 251 mics, right? Into a Chandler LTD1.
Okay.
Neve-ish preamp.
What's the headline then?
And then going into my go-to limiter, which is a inward TSL4. Okay. And maybe a bit of EQ from like a 550A, that kind of thing. Okay. And that's basically it,
The part,
nothing too fancy.
What effects did you have on the lead on Haley's vocals?
Don't remember specifically, but I think that it might have been some Enigma kind of like modulation type stuff plug, and then some of my favorite reverbs was that Valhalla stuff.
I haven't tried that.
The Valhalla DSP.
Yeah, it's very inexpensive.
It's very affordable, but I tell you what, I don't know anyone that gets that.
Don't talk about it, because we're about to start Batter's Box.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks to your artful segue. That's
I ruined
such a
it.
beautiful. No, it's perfect. And Dave, as he usually does, as he trips through the broadcasting fields of Lily, let's get Batter's Box ready and roll that intro. And you got you ready to fire away?
Hey man, I just proved it.
We got we don't have all stars here. We have them pretty regularly, but this is another level.
Oh, I'm ready. I am so ready.
Then fire away, sir. Let's see. I'm keeping score.
Okay, synthesizers.
Jupiter 8.
Not a good sign. Not a good sign. Herb. Amplifiers.
Something hairy like an old Trainer or a JTM 45 going into an Orange 212 or a Fender Tone Master with vintage 30s mixed with something like a Roland JC 120 for some ice and some chorus or modulation in there blended in.
Just stop. Right.
Drive safe. Tip your waitresses.
Good night.
We'll see you here next
week. Good to see you. Peace out.
What'd I do?
Vocals.
I just love 251 type flavors. So anything like of
Let
that.
me remind you, brevity is of importance here.
Oh, is that the deal?
I'm helping
All
you
right.
out.
Okay,
I'm-
good.
Okay, because Herb takes away points for that.
All right, cool. Yeah.
What was your answer?
251.
It's 5-string.
Not allowed.
Nice.
I'm a concede on that one.
Nice.
I love it. I hate 5 strings.
Okay.
Acoustic, yeah, unless Marcus Miller's playing one. Acoustics.
You know, a plywood upright from the 50s. Nice, that's had time to age and dry out. Nice and mid-rangey, kind of a knocky sound, but always punches through in a mix.
Okay, I'm gonna throw you a slow ball over the plate. Reverb.
AMS RMX16 or Valhalla DSP.
Non-lin or ambience?
Well, it depends on the function, but if I can get away with non-lin, I'll use it.
Okay. The cheapest piece of gear you've used on a hit record?
Boss DM300 analog delay, which isn't a pedal, it's a little box tabletop guy. And there is nothing that gets that sound for
Whose
me.
side are you on?
No, I'm just observing.
He's just
I'm
impartial,
impartial,
man.
I'm Switzerland. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. Come on, man.
Distortion.
On a pedal, something like a 80s Boss heavy metal pedal. Surprising, but a great pedal you can use on lots of stuff.
The
But
orange and black one?
yeah, the orange and black guy.
Gotcha.
That thing is like really useful.
I've got a couple if you ever need them.
And then, you know, I'm always using the Overstayer Saturator or the Culture Vulture, but the Overstayer is my favorite, you know.
Have you tried the new, well, Dave, brevity, piano?
Upright pianos. I always, when possible.
Compete against this crap.
Listen,
Incredible. I do like the sound of a hardened key upright. You know?
Right, yeah.
Stranded on an island, what piece of gear would you want? No generator answers.
It's just an acoustic guitar, man.
Wow. Okay,
Can't be fancy with that one.
Jaco Pastorius or Stanley Clarke?
I mean, for me, it's Jaco because I'm not a jazz or fusion guy, but I like Weather Report's whole take on things and Jaco's irreverence. You know,
That's what I like about him. Man. I miss him to this day. You know, he was a great.
Birdland. It just popped in my head.
I
Sorry.
know. Okay, you don't have to say Herbie. Clean my clock.
oh boy.
Not just yours.
I think he got me San Antonio Spurs style.
Well, I was going to say
Blowout?
the medics.
Yeah.
The medics are on their way out to sort of heal you and just cart you off. Although you were gallant, there's no diminishment
down
in your
fighting.
performance. It's just that kind of bat speed is. He didn't have to run the bases; they just kept going over the wall.
I could have shortened my answers a little bit, though. I will give you
That's
that.
even scarier. Like he could have gone.
I should have.
I know you took off points, and he still beat me by
We might
20.
have to do a chapter in book 2 with him. So, so Chongor, why don't you get some sacrificial lamb set up over there? We'll introduce Chongor Gans over in the corner office. Chongor is the Hungarian Flash. I call him White Son. He calls me Black Dad. So is corner office up and ready to roll?
Let's get a run.
There he is.
We're going LAUSD style on this. There's no keeping score, so you can relax.
Oh God.
So Chongor,
You're a
fire
product of that
away,
system,
sir.
right?
You guys are going. This first one's from Chad McElvenna. How did you set up the room mics for the drums on the Paramore album, and did you use any special techniques to get them to sound the way they do?
Yeah, and this was really fun. I have a brilliant engineer I work with on my last 4 records or so, and I've really developed a great partnership with him, and he helps me out a lot, and he helps me out particularly in the tracking phase, and he's incredible. His name's Carlos de la Garza, and Carlos and I developed a scheme where we wanted the room mics to be flexible enough to where we had options later. So we with the Paramore record, we were in Sunset Sound Studio 3, which isn't necessarily known as a room that's idealized for big rock drum sounds. It's warm, it's beautiful, it's classic, it's all those things. Prince did, 1990 or Purple Rain there or whatever. It's great, but I wanted to work there, but we didn't know what we were going to get. So we developed a thing where we would put in the farthest upper corners of the room a pair of either, if we wanted it darker, like some Coles or some 251s, and then in the middle of the room, and that would be definitely the most aggressive room character, obviously. In the middle of the room, we got some baffles, some short gobos, maybe like the 3 or 4 foot high ones. And we had 67s on stands placed against the gobo, maybe a foot off, and that gobo was maybe 10, 12 feet away from the kit.
Let me stop you. So if here's the drum kit, here's the gobo, is the mic like this or like this?
The latter.
So the mic is behind the gobo.
Hidden behind the gobo.
Okay.
And what we were able to do is have Ilan Rubin, the drummer, audition the song for us, and we would selectively mute to sit there going through the mics, and then we'd had a selection of mono rooms too. We had an SF-24 above the kit, behind the kit, and some C12s as well. And we would some stuff on the floor, like EV salt shaker mics and things like that. Sometimes like a PZM, those types of things. And we would just sit there and see what we liked, and then whatever we liked, we'd send it down the buses. Wow. And we'd just commit.
So much fun.
It's so much fun. And then what I'd find is this whole thing of putting 67s, Carlos's idea, by the way, of putting 67s right behind those baffles, I would just say, move those 1 foot more back, and then we get all the cymbals would come in there all of a sudden. Wow. Or not, or then we just have this thunderous thing and crunchy thing, but no cymbals.
One last question. Here's my drums. Here's the baffle. Some gobos and baffles have a hard side and a absorbent side. The side where the mic was
absorbent.
It was absorbent,
yes,
not hard. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Sean, give us another one.
This one's from Soon Wagner. When working with a really experienced band such as the Ravenettes, how does your workflow differ from a band who may be new to the recording process?
Just full disclosure here, Suna is the guitar player, singer, and main music creator of the band, the Ravenettes. So he's playing a little joke on us here.
I love that.
Which I love.
That record just came out today.
Tuesday, actually. Tuesday. Just this past Tuesday.
Yeah, I got it. Congratulations.
So Suna, thank you for that
question. Is that the way you say it?
Pe'ahi. Pe'ahi is a name of a big surf break in Hawaii that's very dangerous, and which is sort of all about what the record's all about.
Record.
But actually, to be humor aside, to answer Suna's question, which is actually pretty funny but very appropriate, when you have a band like the Ravenettes where there's 6 albums deep or 7 albums deep already, or I'm not sure. I think it's between 5 and 7 albums, and they know what they want. They know what they're doing, and you're really there just to add a new flavor or a new layer. You're not there to reinvent the wheel with them. That's an extremely educational process for me. So it's sort of a mixture of stepping back and deferring and letting things happen, and then sometimes when you see an opening, jumping in really strongly and suggesting something with a lot of conviction. So sort of going halfway and being sort of like generally agreeable and meekly suggesting things doesn't work. It's like sort of a push and pull thing. You step back, you jump in when you see an opening. That's how I've figured that one out.
3 things in your future. One is you will not be able to get rid of us, and you have to come back.
I'd love to come back. Thanks.
The second one is I am just so happy to be beside the fro. Just
fear the fro.
It's just the commitment is just.
Thank you.
Because I used to have one about that.
One of my batter's box questions was Afro pick, but he answered it so thoroughly in rehearsals yesterday.
Oh, rehearsals.
By the way,
yesterday.
you weren't at rehearsals.
I thought I was in New York yesterday, but
see.
There's no rehearsal for this.
It's your parallel universe.
I just want to remind the audience: only 97% of everything I say is true. So.
Right. Thirdly, likely when you're in your creative process, there may be a large black man who's spent time in Canada and Kentucky back in the corner in the shadows watching, because I just love your process, man. Thank you so much
Thank
for coming.
you, Herb. My pleasure's mine. It's a real honor to be on here with you guys.
There's just not enough time. Dave, take us home. I wish this.
You know what? I'm gonna take you home with a Justin quote. I'll make sure I get this right. Production is not some juggernaut of selfish isolation, and that struck me as a quote that's kind of germane to everything creative in life. Part of creativity is best served alone, but part of it's best served with surrounding yourself with other people of like mind. And today you've seen a perfect example of that. Study his records, and when you study them, look for his use of texture and space. We didn't get to that. But I learned something today. I hope you did too, and I hope I have a long friendship with the gentleman to my left, far left, and we'll see you next week.